Welcome to the J.R. Hendrix Texan Consort, the podcast of the J.R. the Night. It's really life yours truly. Get ready for this adventure. This one is called The Catfish King Finds the Truth. "5:25 a.m. Eastern. Jim and Betsy arrive at Dulles Airport to get on the private plane that was to take them to Dallas-Fort Worth. By 5:55, the private jet carrying Jim and Betsy departs Dulles International Airport, headed towards Dallas-Fort Worth. 5 a.m. JR is swimming with Rand, his old prep school friend, at the Sibley. "You still hot after Olivia Reynolds?" Rand asked. "Olivia's moved on. I moved on," JR said. "You know, my dad says it's been hard finding business since your dad left his company." "That's not all he left. He left a sense of family. That's what he left. You know, I remember when we was in John Island Elementary, Dad used to come home at night and complain about how he was sick of hearing your dad saying the one thing he hated the most was being a coward. Dad said he was being a hypocrite." JR makes his way to the ladder into the steps of the pool. He is. But the good news is, I hear he's going to be seeing me swim Saturday in Fort Worth. 6 a.m. JR returns to his dorm to listen to the Blake Carter Minute. "Classic liberalism is dead. Has been for some time. The classic liberal that I believe last existed was John F. Kennedy. Bill Clinton is no more a classical liberal than he is a new Democrat." "Yeah, right," Blake said. Suddenly JR noticed the time. He had to be at the family condo at 6:30 to have breakfast with his grandmother. 6:30 a.m. Elizabeth is making breakfast when there's a knock at the condo door. "Boys, come on in," Betsy said. "Morning, I made y'all some cinnamon toast." JR hugs his grandmother and then proceeds to pour some orange juice into a glass. "Hey, Grandma, check out this meter. I just got this from the state." "Boy, you're talking over my head," Elizabeth said. JR sits down at the table, opening up his copy of the Raider, Texas Tech's daily newspaper. "Oh, wow, this is awesome," JR said. "Oh, boy, what did the crooked politicians do now?" "Well, this isn't so bad. The Supreme Court ruled that jurors cannot be excluded because of gender." "About damn time," Elizabeth said. Just then, Cousin Joe walked into the room. "Grandma, Chief Justice William Rehnquist is the right type of Supreme Court justice." "You think I want to talk about this, sonny boy?" "Look, ma'am, William Rehnquist can steer this court the right way, despite the liberals. Do you really think I care about politics, sonny boy?" "Well, it's the right move. But let's talk about something else besides politics." "Yeah, that's right. Breakfast is ready." Seven a.m. Central. JR and Grandma Elizabeth are sitting in the condo talking. "You know, I remember a day when your daddy came home from school, when you came home from school, and your granddad ordered you inside. Once you got inside, he took out a horsewhip to your daddy." You know, back then, Grandma, I was oblivious to him cheating on Mama. I honestly thought that, well, I was hot and heavy after Olivia Reynolds, a prep school girlfriend of mine. I'll tell you something, before Jennifer came along, JR, I thought that Olivia Reynolds was the last good girlfriend that you had. That awful Holly Hawthorne. All she cared about was boosting your status. Your daddy set that up. Me and Holly are so done, Grandma, Jared said. Yeah, but don't be surprised, son, if your daddy don't hire her on an internship. He'll do anything to get you two back together. It's not happening, Grandma, Jared said. Look, Jennifer and I talked last night, and we agreed we're going to have a little cooling off period. During the summer, I'll find me a little girlfriend to just hang out with. But when I come back this fall, I'll be back with Jennifer. I intend to marry her. You better sure hope that your daddy don't get in the way with that. 8 a.m. Central. The jet carrying Jim and Betsy lands at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. 5 minutes later, Betsy is in her Pontiac van, driving back to the house in Gainesville. Jim has fetched his white Chrysler van to take him to the University of Dallas. 10 a.m. Central. As JR is in the Spanish lab, studying under his section leader, Caesar. Jim is delivering a speech to a finance class about economic development and small business, stating his feelings that the Clinton administration was doing nothing about small business. 12 p.m. JR is having lunch with Brad at the Sneed Snack Bar. I tell you, JR, I know just how you feel. My brother Jerry, Mama enables him, and no one even dares correct him. That's why his life fell apart 6 years ago when his wife Elva divorced him. It broke my heart. He didn't care. Well, it's not so bad now, Brad. The truth is, Daddy's going to be joining me in a couple of days to see me swim in Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, that's not so bad, Gerald. Yeah, see, I knew you'd see it that way. Now, let's talk about something else. Like tomorrow night's Bible study. $3 p.m. JR is swimming at the Daniels Aquatic Center with Dave Smith. JR is talking about his dinner date with Jennifer Bowers. At the same time, Dave Smith told JR that he was falling in love with Rachel Daniels, a public affairs student. JR would meet her in the fall of 1994. 4 p.m. Jim and Betsy, Claude and Becky, are sitting in the living room of their house in Gainesville, drinking Jack Benny's beer. The company had its main headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri, but it also had offices and factories in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and White Springs, Texas. Claude spoke up. I just heard from Greg this morning. He's really considering divorcing Norma. I always thought that Norma was too liberal and too mental for Greg, Betsy said. All that gallivanting all over the country and not even bothering to call? That's not a good marriage. Becky spoke up. Betsy, I would divorce. I would dump Carl. I would dump Claude if he tried to pull that. Jim and I ran into a spot like that between September of 1993 and September of 1983 and March of 1987. He was traveling all the time on business in Nashville. Well, I was trying to cut my teeth in the dang music business as a producer. In 86, I was home more than I was gone. Because quite frankly, I wanted to work on our relationship. Be more towards a family man. "5 p.m. At Texas Tech, JR turns on the radio to listen to the Blake Carter Show when Blake makes this pronouncement. This morning I had a chance to have breakfast with Marlena Diedrich. She's a speechwriter for motivational speakers in the country. She told me she felt like the Clinton administration policies leave very little to be desired. Now, she's a speechwriter for motivational speakers like Ted Youngblood and Woody Jenkins. So think about that. If a speechwriter in personal development can say there's problems in the Clinton administration policies, then so do I. 6 p.m. At the University of Dallas, there is a star-studded reception. The chaplain of the business school makes this introduction. I would like to introduce you to a man who is larger than life to some people in Texas. He was born in Montana, but he was raised on traditional native Texas values. He graduated with a bachelor's in business engineering at Southern Methodist University before going off to chase his oil destiny. He served in the CFTC, in the Bush administration, and railroad commissioner under Governor Ann Richards before becoming a part of the Small Business Administration under President Clinton. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jim Hendrix to the stage. Hi. I just want you to know we come a long way since we started our company and Post, Texas. Today you're about to witness my speech where I talk about how we need to have more of a conservative revolution. We have forgotten our values towards small business and economic development. And this is something that we need to fix ASAP. At the same time, JR and Jennifer are having dinner at the fountain. Fazoli's. Well, I'm going to be driving to Fort